Mr. S. V. Nartan is the co-founder and CEO of Visara Consulting, which focuses on human capital advisory and enterprise development work. A respected voice of the HR profession in India, Mr. Nartan is recognized as one of the top 20 influencers of HR by the Economic Times. His book, The Heart of Work, is a bestseller. He is also a regular blogger and an HR power influencer on LinkedIn and Twitter.
So dignitaries on the stage, Mr. Mahalingam, Mr. Govind Iyer, and Mr. Vijay Kumar. I really thank you for this opportunity to have me come and spend some time with the future, which is standing up, actually sitting in front of me. This is really the future. This is really the future of India. Very, very fortunate to be seeing this hall getting filled with a lot of people who are really going to define the future of this country. So a big congratulations to all of you. I think you should applaud for yourselves. I have two confessions to make. The first one is, it's very difficult to speak after Mr. Mahalingam. So Mali sets the stage. At the end of it, he would leave you with some very power-packed words of what this country can do. I'm no such speaker. I don't think I can give you, the only thing I can possibly give you is, as I remember, there was once a major. Now this major was going to address his troops and he was waiting. Suddenly the general came up. Now the general, the moment the general comes in, all the soldiers are looking only at the general because the general is going to make some. So the general came and spoke, General Mali. And after this, the general went away. Now, the poor major will have to come and speak. So how does he gather the attention of all the soldiers sitting in front of him? So he addresses the soldiers and he says, "Soldiers, the general has made some general points. The major will now make some major points." Thank you very much. So, this morning, I was searching for something to write on. You see, there are people who will write on their, on their pads. They would write on the phone. But I'm an old-timer. So I was looking for something to write on. And there was not a writing pad in the room. But I did espy a small Colgate brush, and there was a small Colgate somewhere there. So what I did was, I took something like this, and on the reverse, I wrote a few points. So the good news is, this is all that I'm going to read out to you. So, not very long. What is success in today's age? Success in today's age is doing a bit of a side hustle. Just not the job that you do, but do something on the side. So that's number one. Two, it's also, in today's world of the social media, how many hits do you get on your Insta or your LinkedIn post? That's another indicator of success. Success is having a friend. Success is also about relationships, or how long you can have this relationship with anyone else. I'm going to turn this on its head, and I'm going to talk about success because in my view, success is a good night's sleep, having done a good day's work. Success is having a good night's sleep. Success is when you're a much sought after person, not a wanted person, but a sought after person. When somebody seeks you out, then you're successful. Success is also about finding joys in small matters, small things. Being very curious about things and then discovering a few things, that is success. Success is also about having long relationships. Meeting friends after many, many years like Govind and having a quiet cup of coffee That is success. Before I get to what success is, let's talk about the ingredients of success. How many of you are interested in stories? Raise your hands. Shameless people. All students of management. Oh my God, people on the dais as well. Okay. Very well. So here's the story of a grandmother. So this grandmother had only one leg, and they lived in a very, very small house. Well, it's not really a house, it's just one room. And that room was everything. That was the drawing room, the bedroom, the kitchen, whatever else. I mean, just one room there. They didn't have a wall, they had a privacy curtain. The privacy curtain was a lot of these jute bags in those days. So you open them up and then sew them. So that was the privacy curtain. But there was something very fascinating about this old lady. Every day, she used to get out into her drawing room. The drawing room was really the sidewalk, the platform. So she used to be sitting there and recounting a lot of stories. And a lot of young boys used to just mill around that place wanting to listen to her stories. And as she recounted her stories of, mythology, whatever, people used to be sitting in rapt attention, listening to her stories. Very, very captivating. One day, when she was telling a story, there was a boy who got distracted and was not listening to her but looking somewhere else. Now, when somebody is saying something and the person is not paying attention, it's not a good thing. So the old lady, what she did was, the grandmother slapped the boy and says, "Hey, I'm talking to you and you're looking someplace else." So he says, "Grandma, what do I do? I just saw a car drive by." He says, "What about the car?" Now this is a boy who hardly had 2 meals a day and was studying in a corporation school where in those good old days you didn't have tables and chairs, but you have to sit on the ground, use something called a slate and a chalk. And he's looking at the grandmother and says, "Grandmother, can I ever sit in a car?" And the grandmother looks at the boy and says, "Of course you can sit in a car. If you're going to sit in a car, make sure that you sit behind. You have a driver, the car is yours, and you're paying the driver." So this boy is a little flummoxed. He says, "And?" He says, "But if you are driving the car must be yours." This young boy who had nothing in the world other than dreams looks at the grandmother and says, "Grandma, can I ever get into a car?" He says, "Of course you can, provided you think you can, and you got to work hard for it, boy. You got to work very hard for it." Well, many years later, when I'm sitting in a car and when I'm trying to work, I remember the grandmother. The grandmother and her stories, because the grandmother who told all that great stories was my grandmother, and the boy who got slapped was yours truly. So one of the big ingredients of success is dreaming. And I can tell you this, if you wish for something, you will certainly get that. Do you believe it? Yes. If you wish for something, so the whole thing about how you would like to be successful is, it starts with just a very simple ichha. There's something called ichha shakti, which means the whole strength of a desire. So you start with that. So that's one. After every story, and I'm going to recount 2 or 3 stories, I'm going to do this. When I do this, it means that story is over, and I'm going to recount something else. Okay, you got me? So here is a story. I was a young general manager working in a company called Sterling Holiday Resorts here in the city, wonderful city. In those days it was called Madras, but now it is Chennai, Chingara, Chennai. So I was there working late, 10 o'clock at night, very large hall, in the far end, I saw that there was a light which was burning. It was my first week at this wonderful organization. And I walked towards the light to find out what was happening. There was a transistor. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, in those days you had something called a transistor. There was some music, and there was a boy who was singing, and he was doing some work. So I went up to him and I said, "What are you doing?" So he says, "Sir, can't you see? I'm preparing payslips." And the way he said, "I'm preparing payslips," was as if he was doing some rocket science out there. But I looked at him and I said, "So you pay, what about payslips?" He says, "Sir, you don't understand. One extra zero in a payslip, somebody is very happy. And 1 zero less, somebody is very unhappy. So if you don't mind, I'm doing a very important job. Can I meet you tomorrow?" I quite like this gentleman, so I said, "Okay, I'll meet you tomorrow. 11 o'clock, my office?" "Yeah, perfect." 11 o'clock, this boy comes across. Knocks on the door. I say, "Okay, come in." The first question we ask people when we meet them is, "Hey, what's your name?" So he says, "This is my name." Then the second question we ask anybody is, "What's your background?" So he says, "I've done my MBA." And the way he said is, "I've done my MBA," was as if he has come from, the biggest school in the world, the Wharton or the Harvard. And he was standing tall. And I said, "Okay, so which school have you done your MBA?" So he says, "ABC School of Management." "ABC School of Management? I've never heard of this." He said, "Sir, how can you hear about this? After I finished 1 year, they shut down that school." "Shut down that school?" "Yeah." "Then what did you do in your undergrad?" So he said, "I did BA History." And the way he said BA History was as if he has done his computer science from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Then I again looked at him and I said, "So, okay, what was your percentage?" So he said, "Sir, I got 35%. Again, when he says 35%, you start to think as if this guy is, university first. 35%? He said, "Again, you don't understand, sir. If they had given me 34%, they would have to suffer me for 1 more year." So I cleared. I passed. The more he spoke, the more I got interested in this boy. There was a telephone call. I picked up the phone. Yes, in those days you had one of these handsets. You got to put them on your ear and speak. So this gentleman says, "Hello, I'm Sanjay Bhaduri, and I wanted a regional human resources manager west, and I've been asking for the last 6 months, Nathan, can you help?" I said, "Sanjay, I got exactly the person for you. I got exactly the person for you." And then I put the phone down. But before I did that, I said, "But Sanjay, you better take good care of him. He's the best. He's the best." Put the phone down. Then I looked at this gentleman and I said, "Hey, would you want to go to Bombay and be our regional human resources manager?" So he looked at me and says, "Of course, of course." And then I asked him one more question. He said, "Do you know Hindi?" He said, "Tora, Tora." Anybody who says Tora, Tora means they have no knowledge about Hindi. But I said, "Okay, I'll let this pass." Mahi went to Bombay. I don't know what happened after that, but I do remember just when he was leaving the room, he asked me again. He said, "Sir, you're very confident about this regional manager?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Why do you ask?" He said, "It is 4 levels higher than a payroll clerk." I said, "It doesn't matter. I made the decision. Just go." Many years later, I got a telephone call. This telephone call was a call which was of a person complaining. What is he complaining about? He says, "Sir, 3rd time on trot, I've been asked to go to Miami." "For what?" He said, "With my spouse. I have to go there. It's 1 day of some mumbo jumbo that they have on management, and then after that, 7 days of pure fun." So he says, "So why are you complaining?" So he says, "Sir, I'm complaining because this is the 4th time that they've asked me to come to Miami." I said, "4th time? So why do they keep calling you?" He said, "Well, they look at the 0.01 top performers in the world and they bring them to Miami." Then I got a little upset with this guy. I said, "Hey, listen, you don't complain about these things. If you have a problem going there, please check with your organization whether I could go in your place. Anyway, I let the conversation pass, put the phone down, and I was smiling. And my wife, by the side, she asked me, she says, "You seem to be very happy." I said, "Yeah, I'm very happy." He said, "Why are you smiling?" Now, wives are always curious when husbands smile or laugh. And so I said, "I'm smiling because this person is going to Miami." I recounted this very, very quickly. And she says, "But why this happiness?" He says, I said, "I'm very, very happy today because once upon a time, this boy, who is the director of human resources, one of the largest multinationals here in the country, is going to Miami for the 4th time. Once upon a time, he was all but a payroll clerk." He was once upon a time a payroll clerk. That's the story. And I remember this because it does not matter which school of management you come from. None of this matters as long as you school from the school of attitude. One of the biggest ingredients to success is what do you do with the education that you get, even if it is for a very, very short one. Well, I could go on forever, but I can't forget this one. So, how many of you in the room are runners? Can you raise your hand? Oh, not too many. Okay, for people who are not runners, there is something called the 10K run, 20K run, marathon, mini marathon, all that. So there was this was in Hyderabad. I've lived in Hyderabad for a very, very long time. I love the city. So this was around the Hussain Sagar Lake. It's a beautiful place. So the race was supposed to be at 5:30 in the morning, and I was all pumped up, prepared, ready to go. And at that very point in time, when we are supposed to hear that clap of the races, which is supposed to start, at that point in time, I found that the chief guest has not arrived. Now, you can't run if the chief guest has not fired a pistol in the air. Very unfortunate, after a good 10 minutes, chief guest arrived, and before you know what had happened, the race had started. Unfortunately for me, I had warmed down by then. And people who are runners in this room will know that you have to warm up a little bit before you can run. I had warmed down. And when I started to run, I got a cramp, a very bad cramp, and I sat in the side. When I sat on the side, I thought my race was over. Just then, there was somebody who just very gently shook my hand and said, "Can you just get up a little bit?" I said, "I can't, because I can't run." He said, "Of course you can't run. Can you walk?" He said, "I can't walk." "Do one thing, just hold my shoulder and let's walk together." And we started walking together. It was actually not even a walk, we were hobbling. And then this gentleman said, "Can we go to the green flag, which is just 10 meters away?" So we started and hobbled to the green flag. And then he said, "Can he go to the red flag?" So we went to the red flag. And then the black and the yellow, and I have no idea what happened because after some time, I found myself running. The race was over. For all people who completed the race, the top 10, they got a medal of some sort. So I was called up on stage. There was a medal. I was sweating. And at that point in time, people had not seen my tears. I was all teared up because I was not to win that race or be the top 10. Because the person who helped me was nowhere in sight. I'll never forget Anupam Lal. I'll never forget him because in all these moments of what we have to be successful in our life, there is always somebody who holds a lending hand. Who always holds a lending hand. So find opportunities to help somebody. Because in helping somebody else, you will find you're helping yourself. Well, I have a lot more stories, but before I get there, a few quick ones. And I know I'm running out of time. One, my first advice to all of you seeking a job. The first advice to you is smile. Smile. When you go into an interview, the first thing people would want to look at you is to see whether you're a Groucho Marx or you're a happy person. Smile. 2, it may sound very ridiculous, but when you meet anybody, give them a firm handshake, not a dead fish handshake. Because the way that you shake somebody's hand will also let them know how confident you are. Network. There are a lot of people in your class. Make sure that you know a number of them. Today you have wonderful platforms like the WhatsApp and all kinds of groups that you have. Make sure you stay connected, because you never know that sitting in your midst could be a person who was once a backbencher, who is currently the CEO of a very large private bank. You'll never know that. So make sure that, well, to keep you honest, I have several of the top bankers in the country who are my classmates. Very, very fortunate. And we never knew of them as people who could make it this far in their lives. Learn. Learn as much as you can, but more importantly, apply. Have a goal, have a dream. Have a dream. And I'll guarantee you this, if you wish for something, that wish will happen. My personal, and last couple of them, never give up. Never give up. My personal credo is water cuts rock. Water cuts rock. I never, never, ever give up. Yeah, you will have a lot of setbacks in your life. Not everybody in the room will like you. Does not matter. But keep at it. Be persistent, be resilient. And I'm sure that as the day goes by, you will get to hear a lot of pearls of wisdom. And I'm going to close with a story, with your permission. Okay. So here was a potter. This potter was going to make hookah. Hookah is very valuable to a potter because you make a lot of money on that, and it's not very big, but you make a lot of money. So suddenly his wife chanced on him and said, "What are you doing? Why didn't you make a pot?" Because when you make a pot, it'll contain water. During the summers, people will really thank you. So why didn't you make a pot? So he says, "Yeah, that sounds like a good idea." And he started to now knead all the clay that he had, and he was going to make a pot. And just at that point in time, when his wife was away, there's a voice that says, "Hey, hello, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, can't you see? I'm making a pot." And then he discovered that there was nobody around him. Says, "Who is speaking?" Says, "I am the clay. And I'm speaking to you, Mr. Potter. What are you doing?" He says, "I'm making a pot." "Why are you making a pot?" "I'm making a pot because my wife gave me an idea. And I like that idea. And the idea changed your shape." The idea changed your shape. And at that time, the clay says, "An idea changed your mind. That idea changed my life. That very same idea changed my life." That's the story. And it holds enormous meaning for me. Hey, by the way, if you do have to applaud, put your life into it. If you do have to applaud, put your life into it. Thank you. So, this holds a lot of meaning for me because we sit through conferences. We listen to a lot of interesting speakers. There will be at least one idea. The idea could change your life. And on that note, I'm going to invite somebody, and I'll confess out here, what he said to me many, many years ago changed my life. That idea changed my life. Presenting Govind Iyer. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.